So hello, Michael.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
I've invited you for a short interview about your gaming background and also how you well the things you learned about gaming addiction and how you deal with
Mhm.
games nowadays. So can you give us a short introduction of who you are, along with the question how it all started?
So when I was very young, I would say about 5 or 6, and this was well after my mom and dad separated Catholic annulment. Uh, Mom was more interested in, raising me, to do my R's, my reading, writing, arithmetic, my schoolwork and all that. Dad, unhappily, and he comes from a background where you could, as I understand it, you could just leave the child raising pretty much just to the lady because it's her job. He basically took a more laid back approach. That as long as we were in the same household, it's spending time together. He would allow me to play games on his computer. Basically, more or less the entire time I was there, only break for, lunch, bathroom, that kind of thing. My stepdad and mom noticed that I seemed to be more interested in playing games as opposed to, my schoolwork. They raised this issue with him, but he didn't see any issue with it. He said, "It's my house, my rules." So, fortunately, thanks to, my mom and then stepdad's holiness, so I understood then. Uh, I did grow up, reasonably balanced. I was always, doing pretty well in school, if did okay. But in terms of gaming, it would be somewhat addiction. I basically grew up from 5 to 6 to like easily to teen years. It was always more or less the same with my dad. Come over, say hi, maybe talk about a thing or two, and then hop on my computer, play games. He pretty much just didn't see a problem with any of it. So from a young age, basically, I've been caught up with gaming.
Yes, and I guess you also had the intelligence to just deal with schoolwork
Hmm.
without really concentrating on it. Like I think you also told me you have autism, like I do. Uh,
Yes, I do have autism. So at least in terms of my schoolwork, I found that just get it all taken care of. I mean, as long as I could understand it, yeah. I mean, I showed from even a very young age that I just loved to solve problems. So that was part of how my mom and stepdad were able to keep me, working on the schoolwork and all that.
yeah, but I guess it's also a problem because it keeps you engaged in the games because there's no reason for you to quit as long as that part is going fine, and you're too young to realize that you have a problem, right?
Pretty much. It's I think of games as being hypnotic. They're very, easy to miss that detail when you just want to, avoid boredom, which for someone like me, and I'm sure our audience has people like that too. Boredom is the worst thing you want to have, and games offer an easy way out of it. So yes, that's why I was into gaming a lot.
And at what point did you, or I guess maybe your parents, because you were young, but how did yeah how did you establish that you had an addiction in a sense?
So the first time where it definitely became a problem is I would play the games. A problem is I'm restless. I need to burn off that energy or I can't sleep. I was around, I think, 8 or 9 years old when I got the sequel to Army Men 2. And I just, for hours, would play the Kingdom Hill mode because it takes forever to win that one. The problem where it turned out to be a real problem, the mom and then stepdad noticed that when I came back, I was basically, just tired. I was, kind of nodding off and whatnot. When they confronted me, it took a little, didn't take much to get it out of me because honest by nature. They found that I had been staying up all night playing Armament 2. I found that if waited 15, 20 minutes for dad to sleep, go out quietly, keep it on a low volume, I could play the game all night. They put their foot down. This is a problem. And if this is not taken care of, we are going to seriously have to think about your spending the night over there. That was about one of two times where my dad finally got some inkling. Okay, gaming is a problem. So, and he didn't discuss this with him, just stuck it by email that I will make sure that he's getting to sleep before I sleep. And he hoped that would be enough. He didn't want our time together interrupted. The second time where I would have where the gaming became a problem was during my teenage years. See, Dad was starting comes in. Suddenly he's not, indifferent to my homeschooling. He's interested in first, you're going to get these assignments done because I don't want you repeating the grade. Completely 180, and I was confused. I was also very resentful. I could come over here, game all day. Now he's telling me that this is getting done. And he would also check on me as to what's your progress report. But after that was done, it was gaming as usual. But even after that, which I think was the last time that the gaming itself seemed to be a problem, was he started having me take SAT practice exams to give a thought to college. And even into, I think, the first 2 or 3 years of college, what do you want to major in? To get a college degree and get a career. That's his background. And I was like, I have no idea. Just sit back there clueless because my world is video games. I don't want to be bothered about all this college degree stuff. It's much more effort. It's frightening. It's not something I want to go into. So at that point, it did take me a while that I began to realize, okay, I'm taking gaming. It was only after the third one that I started to take my gaming a little more. This is problematic. I need to put time aside just for college and my responsibilities first. It helped that I was also working at McDonald's. Yeah, my schedule is busy. I do not have much time for games. So let's put them aside. They'll still be there when I finish up my responsibilities. Why don't I think of them as just a way to relax?
Yeah, so can you tell us a bit about what it's like to be addicted? So you just told me like nothing else seemed as important as gaming, and everything just
Mm-hmm.
becomes too much of an effort. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if you have anything to add regarding that.
I can add quite a bit actually. So I'm also going to speak for this one, I would say empathetic. A video game addict is first and foremost, he's a loner. His world is the whole digital thing that the video games offer. Sports, car racing, massive MMO, it doesn't matter what it is. This is what he's concerned about. That's his source of objectives, of keeping busy, his source of pleasure. It's the whole all one package. He's alone there. This is all that he is familiar with, particularly as an autistic person. This is what he knows. This is where he's safe. This is where he's comfortable. So that's the first thing to appreciate about any addict. He or she is a loner. Any online friends are most likely just people that play the same game. That's all draws them together. The second thing about being an addict is you are very susceptible to fear of anything that disrupts your world. For instance, when my then stepdad and mom sat down with me and several of my siblings to talk about it's time to get a job. You need to start being able to pay rent. Michael owns a car and pays his own insurance, but he needs to have a job so he can start covering his own expenses. A part of that is this is part of growing up, of maturing from a child that needs everything provided to an adult who can balance his checkbook, pay his taxes, file for insurance, that kind of thing. To a gaming addict, all this is frightening because suddenly everything that you use to everything you're accustomed to, all the rules that you are familiar with are thrown out the window. So the idea of growing up to an addict is also very frightening. So empathetically speaking, if you want to, help someone that is an addict, it begins with appreciating that he's all alone in a very tiny box. You need to reach out to this person and tell him, I know you're alone. I know you're scared of growing up, and that's why you come to the games. It's a way for you to escape a painful reality. But what if I can help you? Offer, some compassion, encouragement. I got some ideas right here. I know that you are a very smart person. You can throw up some ideas about what do you want to do with yourself. And I think that takes me also to probably the final thing to know about. This is applicable, I think, to any kind of addiction, is that you don't know what you want. You are content in the present with all of this fantasy world, but you got nothing else after that. The question that I ask is this your purpose? Is this why you know love and exists? Why you were born? Is this why your mom and dad had you? So you can spend, say, your entire year doing that. In fact,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
recall my dad telling me one time he knew of one guy, knew of two parents who their approach was basically provide everything for their son. He grew up into his 40s without a job, without learning balance checkbook or anything like that, just like an addict. And when they basically were set to die of old age and there was nothing they could do, their son was like, I don't want my world disrupted or anything like that. So, and about the only thing he could, even pluck up courage to do was work as a newspaper delivery boy. And the question I pose, to addicts like I was is this what you want to spend your life doing? Is this your plan that when you go on your deathbed, you're going to think back Might Magic, Call of Duty, Battlefield, Super Mario, all those game titles? Are you just going to think, I have beaten all of these make-believe things? Is that what you want to die? Be proud knowing you did? Because I can promise you that it's going to vary depending on circumstances, but gaming addicts will die alone. Nobody's going to remember them. They're going to say, oh, he died? Yeah, God rest his soul. And then he's forgotten. So to me, that's what it's like being an addict. You're alone to the end.
Yeah, so I guess you were lucky that you had kind of a support network that stimulated you to grow up, while others are like, well, this example you mentioned, some other people are just left alone in a sense. They should actually be helped, but they should get assistance, but they don't even realize that they have a problem maybe. But I think people with autism are at an extra risk of this because life is harder for people with autism. I mean, that's what I would say.
Yes, you're correct. I mean, being autistic, we are more sensitive, at least for the guys, to losing control of things, and we need extra encouragement to realize, oh, you know what? This change, it wasn't so bad after all. It was just my stupid fear, trying to confuse me.
Yeah, so that was a very solid explanation. I liked it, but let's just get into the topic of the possibility of being a gamer in moderation. I mean, it's a really nice thing on paper, and for some people it definitely works. And there are a lot of people who have perfectly successful lives, and they still kind of play games on the side because games can also be fun. And instead of just completely condemning games as an evil, well, maybe that will be your opinion, to condemn them as some kind of evil. But there are also people who want to play in moderation, even though they might have a history of addiction. So what are your thoughts on that? I think that's a good final question.
So I would say the first thing is you need to have everything clearly defined. Moderation, addiction. The question that my mom applied, which I believe is very handy, is how long have you been on the computer playing games? Her rule was basically 30 minutes per day. If you wanted an additional 30 minutes, then in addition to the 30, which is granted after all assignments are done, all chores are done, your report card from homeschooling and everything is all good, etc. There's no complaints. Yes, you have earned your 30 minutes. If you wanted an additional 30 minutes beyond that for 1 hour total, you're going to have to do extra chores around the house, extra yard work, say for a neighbor, something. The idea being the idea that she taught is think of the gaming as it's not going to be a hobby. It's going to be a reward. Think of it as a reward instead of something you're entitled to or that you absolutely have to have. It helps. This, I believe, helps against the hypnotism of getting sucked into the game, in that you think of it, this is something I've earned. You treat it then as more of a treasure to enjoy, as opposed to time to kill boredom. So in terms of moderation, that's what I would say. I can see an argument for, a shy person like myself. Yeah, it can be difficult, to socialize, whatnot. Okay, maybe on a weekend, if all my objectives are met, I have met every goal that I set for myself reasonably, etc. Okay, maybe I'll allow myself extra computer time, again, as a reward. Always stress it as a reward. That is what I would say probably would count as, moderation. 30 to 60 minutes a day, maybe 2 hours max. But if you've already met your predetermined objectives ahead of time, plan ahead, keep your eye on the prize. Because otherwise, as I know from personal experience, you very easily come in, I've woken up, it's the weekend, I'm off work. Okay, let's fire up Terra, or whatever your game is. You're going to come to it because not its reward, but because you just want to kill time. In terms of defining it as addiction, that can be a little trickier. My mother's approach is basically, if you're playing the computer beyond 1 hour, it's addiction. In my case, I would say that would make sense for small children, maybe to about age 12 or 13, definitely 30 minutes, no more. As they get older, becoming teenagers, they need to learn to take more responsibilities. At that point, yes, you can sit down and talk with them about, I may be willing to allow you another 30 minutes, but you must meet X, Y, Z conditions. So I know you are being mature, you are getting your responsibilities done, all of them, you're being very well behaved, etc. Again, think of it as a reward. So anything beyond that, beyond 30 minutes as a small child, beyond 1 hour as a teenager, I would say that's definitely addiction. In terms of young adults, anyone 18 plus, it's a little trickier since legally as adults, they have more freedom. So if you have like a rent tenant agreement where they have to pay rent money, then yes, you can put in a rule or something like that and legally enforce it that this is how much time you are allowed per week on games, for example. So you need to budget it, that sort of thing. It takes a lot of planning as well as, being honest with yourself. Do I want to just have my free time I'll spend on the games? So, and ultimately too, what I would say in terms of handling it is keep it moderation instead of addiction. Oh my goodness, I forgot my train of thought. If you're going to keep it in terms of moderation, oh, that's it. If you're going to keep it moderation as opposed to addiction, you also need to teach your son or daughter from a very young age to have a hobby of thinking of games as they're just another fun activity. You want it to be strictly, it's a reward. You want them to be spending time with their friends. You want them cutting the lawn. You want them crocheting, something. You want them to be doing something to keep their minds, active imagination. That's key. You also want to stress this is a reward, and we do not base our lives around it. That, I would say, is a good starting point. Another, insofar as young adults, what I would advise in terms of addiction versus moderation is put it quantitative. Write down in a weekly schedule, when are you sleeping? When are you cooking, working a job, etc. Where does your gaming fit into all this? So you can see how many hours a week you're doing it. I would say anything beyond about 15 hours, definitely above 20 hours, addiction. You should definitely cut back. You can do an internet search on what are hobbies for shy guys, for outgoing girls. Just put your personality traits in and see what hobbies sound good and try them. That's my encouragement, because ultimately, if you want to have the games as something you own, you play them for fun instead of the games own me. I cannot live without them. You need to be the one that takes charge of your life.
Yeah, so this is a bit theoretical in a sense. So let's make the connection. Do you actually apply these principles yourself right now? Because if I
I
understand
do.
correctly, you are still a gamer to some extent.
I game in moderation. So, and this is highly personalized, so unclear, how much this will help other people. But one thing that got me into gaming, still doing it after young adult years, is certain of the games, such as Middle Earth, Shadow of Mordor, Star Wars Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy, quite a few others. Excuse me. They combine some gameplay elements where you have to think about what you're doing. You're given a set of weapons and skills, and here are the enemies, and here's their kits, here's what they are capable of doing. It's a bit of strategy. Now, how do I defeat this opponent? The game then is, in my case, it's not waste time, it's an opportunity to think ahead of time. What am I doing? In certain of the games that I'm still playing right now, such as Genshin Impact, part of the appeal in my keeping my gaming moderated is I can think about what I'm doing. Here's the enemy. Here are the characters I have to work with. How I defeat it. It becomes an exercise in logic, in brain power, instead of mindless. This way, it keeps my imagination active. Another thing I do is before deciding if I want to buy this game, I play the demo. I read the reviews to get an idea for what's its content exactly. Take, for example, something like the much vaunted Call of Duty. It started off, pretty fun when it first came out in 2003. World War II stuff that we ever tried before, and a new squad-based fighting thing that, again, revolutionary for its time. It is now a piece of junk, in my opinion. Why? It has become little more than a cash cow where they repackage the game with here's all the new stuff and they call it the next one. But deep down, instead of a historically touching game, it has become an excuse to just violent shoot up people. As a gamer myself, that to me makes no sense. You go in, you shoot up people. Oh, there's a little tactic and perks and whatnot. Full stop. The point of that game is to go and destroy people digitally. That's it. It glorifies violence, pointless violence. So to me, that is a waste of time. So, and I can say from watching my mom, who occasionally plays a few, such as say Bejeweled Blitz, I noticed that it's better to look specifically for the game by genre, by title, and see basically what's something that would be encouraging to you in terms of using your brain, in terms of think about what you are doing, or trying different combinations of skills, like the Batman Arkham games. The idea to me is that if you're going to game, you need to make sure that it's a productive hobby after a fashion. You have the time allotted for it, and you know what game titles, meet your criteria. This way helps me stay focused on, okay, reward time, let's see what I can do with it this time. And by starting in the right mindset, that helps me, stay moderated. I can understand some gamers wanting to go cold turkey. I have done that a few times. I will point out that if you want to go cold turkey, it is all the more imperative you have replacement hobbies and a reasonable idea how long you're going to be cold turkey. Is it 2 weeks? Is it a month? And it also helps to have an accountability partner, someone who can, share the struggle with you. I mean, if you're not sure, can trust a friend or family member, okay, you can always look online and say, hey, I got this need and I could use a, accountability partner here. And surely I will send along someone who can help.
Yes, well, that's some really solid advice, and I like your perspective on things. I think you've thought about it a lot, but that's also well, one of the benefits of autism, I would say. So I guess
Well,
I
I do
recognize
like
that
to,
in you.
yeah, I do
Yes,
like to be, pragmatic about the whole thing because, at least in my knowledge, you can accept that you have they have a problem, or you deny it. And quite frankly, I would rather everybody have the fair chance to realize, no, I got a problem now, before, you crash into it and it turns out to be, much more serious. I mean, I have read before of, good people who just took up gaming. Like, I know on the Stop Gaming Reddit, for example, this was less than 3 weeks. I think it was last week. There was a lady identified herself, 25 years old, said that she said her boyfriend had gotten into the MapleStory game, and he had spent, I think, more than $10,000.
Ooh.
And I couldn't believe my eyes at first. But yeah, it's just one of those things where it really helps to have an excellent idea of what you're getting into, because at least to my understanding now, that's the video game industry now. They just want to suck you in and, separate you from your credit card, literally.
Yes. Well, thanks for your interesting thoughts today. Um, so honestly, if I have some questions myself in the future, I might ask you again, because I think you know quite a lot about the topic. So I'm a bit more like a jack of all trades, but I do have experience with video game addiction, so I can really feel some of the things you are saying. And I
Mhm.
guess I wish I had a more yeah, I don't know how to express it, but it's like I guess I just had a more a smarter parents in a sense, because your mother sounds, well, of course your father, I mean, it's a painful story, but your mother sounds like she really has life under control, and she helped you to improve your life as well. I mean, it's amazing. So
A great deal. You got it.
yeah, you were lucky with that. So yeah, I guess life is a bit of a lottery in a sense, but thanks to that, you can now give other people advice on what to do. So that's also maybe the benefit of you might be lucky in a sense. I don't know. Maybe you don't feel that way, but you may have been lucky. But it also allows you to understand things in a certain way and help other people. So I hope this interview helped some people with their doubts, because there are a lot of people struggling with this. And well, thank you for your time, and maybe see you another time.
Sounds like a plan. Thanks very much for having me about that help. God bless.